Hello, this is Dr. Jimmy again, and it's probably difficult to see me because it's such a bright day. Let me move in. Can you see me now? Oh, there I am. And yes, I'm wearing this shirt, and let me look on the back. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but it's the house shirt from last year. All those wonderful haunted houses we had at Horror Nights 27. But this will be about this year, Halloween Horror Nights 28, because we've had some announcements, quite a few of them in the past week or so. Before I get into the big ones for Orlando and Hollywood, a little bit about Singapore. Now, as I've mentioned before, there are 4 icons for the event, Halloween Horror Nights 8 Infinite Fear at Universal Studios Singapore this year. By the way, I don't know if you can, there's Lenny right here. You can look down, you can see the, oh, she heard me. Yes, just to let you know she's there, observing, but sleeping in a little castle. But it's now Lenny's castle. It used to be Bob's, but that's one of the few things that Lenny has appropriated. Used to belong to Bob. That in the cat box, and one particular catnip mouse that she plays with. But most of her other toys and things she doesn't bother with. Anyway, but getting back to it, 4 icons, of course. There's been the Pontianak and Lucifer, and we already know what the other 2 are, because of course they've already been revealed to us through the media and other places. But the full reveal of the icon occurred on the website the other day from Singapore. So if you go to the Singapore website, it spotlights now the Yin demon from the Haunted House Pagoda of Peril, and the 3rd of 4 icons. But what's interesting is, and there's a game there for that as well now, and I hear that there's going to be another little movie for him, but this will be animated. How interesting. Nicholas DeJecki mentioned that, so it should be interesting to see that. But it gave also on the website the demon's actual name, which had never been revealed until that day, which is Yen Ling. And if you know anything about Chinese traditional religion, Ling is a very interesting word to use there. I don't want to spend too much time going into it, but Ling represents a sort of energy, sort of emanation. It's hard to describe it in English, but it's basically the force between the divine and the real world, and thus Yin Ling suggests that this really is, it's a word that's used frequently for deities in Taoism and traditional religion in China, for various deities of yin and yang. And so this yin creature is obviously a full-blown yin deity, demon, representing the dark side. That's where George Lucas got the whole concept in the first place, really. You know, yin and yang, all of that came from that original concept. Although I notice, you know, there's going to be 2 male, 2 female characters in these 4 icons, and they decided that they wanted to make Yin Ling male, and he's wearing armor like a warrior. And in fact, being a warrior and being masculine, both of those are yang qualities, not really yin, because yin is associated with passivity and darkness, and as opposed to light, and not necessarily evil and good, like we often think of good and evil, but it's more like light and dark, and fire and water, and active and passive, male and female, counterbalancing each other. But in this case, perhaps those yangy things are part of the little bit of yang that's always in yin, and a little bit of yin that's always in yang. That's why when you see the yin-yang symbol, there's always a little dot from each side and the other side. So that could be what that's about. Or I don't think they put that much thought into it. Just want to make a big scary monster. Okay, that makes sense. All right. But he's been revealed most fully, and I think he's got a nifty little mini movie video coming up soon. That should be quite fun, especially as I hear it's animated. Okay. Last week we got the next big reveal. Huge surprise! Who knew? It was Poltergeist, of course. Poltergeist for both Orlando as a haunted house and amaze for Hollywood. Of course, we already knew it was coming because of so many leaks. I mean, first we saw the facade in Hollywood. It's there for anyone to see, and it's very obviously the house from Poltergeist, right out of the movie. You know, that sort of architecture that was for the tract housing in suburban California, Orange County type 1980s houses. And of course they had built that housing development over the cemetery. Yes, there's that big hill and now all the cemetery, lots and lots of spooky graves, huge cemetery. And of course they found out that they only moved the headstones up on the hill and left the bodies down below the houses, and so the paranormal activity began. But excuse me, this has been something that bugged me. I love the movie, okay? When I saw it first when I was still a teenager, I was 19 in 1982, and I saw the movie then, and in the cinema way back when I was a kid in Hawaii, and I loved it. Absolutely loved the movie. It was so incredible. It did so many fantastic, it starts out with, okay, some stuff moving around, then it starts getting builds and more incredible shit happens and stuff. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching that. There's stuff happening. Wonderful special effects. Blows you away. Amazing, that movie. But it bugged me, and to this day I still wonder about it. And that's a big fucking cemetery up on, and that's huge. That's the size of the whole housing development below. And therefore all those bodies should be over the whole area. So how come that one house in, what's the name of the family? The Freelings? Freeman? I'm going to have to look it up because I feel stupid not having. In fact, let me just do one thing. I should have done this to begin with. Be right back. You can watch the cat while I go get my pad. I should have brought this out. I should have brought this out with me from the get-go before I even started the video, because now I can do what I should have done from the beginning, which is to immediately go, instead of just describing it to you, go directly to the website so you can see what I'm talking about. So here at Singapore, there's the Yin Demon showing up on that billboard. Then there's Lucifer, and then it will turn into the Pontianak in a minute. See, there's the Pontianak again, and it's got, little catchphrases to imply infinite fear. In this case, it says eternity. And if you go then to the highlights and haunted houses, when it comes up, Pagoda of Peril, and then there he is, scares you, yeah, jump scare. But you see in the middle there, if I can get it to stay on him, it talks about his name, which is Yin Ling. Hard to read because it moves around by itself. So I will then go back here to Orlando, and Hollywood did the same thing. It's the same image. So if I go to announcements, it will bring up the lovely graphic image for a Poltergeist. Oh look, Carol Ann is stuck in the telly. And if you look a bit further, it talks about some of the stuff that'll be in there. There's also a video, very nice, and the same graphic is used on the site for Hollywood, so I don't need to dwell on that much further. But okay, so all those graves, it would have to be the whole housing development, have all those bodies underneath. So how come just that one house? How come just the one house is haunted and not all the other houses? And I've never been able to figure that out. Now I think in the sequels they thought about that and came up with the notion that, oh well, maybe it's Carol Ann. that the, you know, that the Reverend Cain might want Carol Ann specifically, and that's all well and good, but none of that was in the first movie at all. They came up with hello. Oh, for a minute there I thought we were gone. They came up with all of that stuff about Reverend Cain in the sequel, wasn't even in the first movie, and so that was a bit silly. Give me a second here, get the names. Freeling is the name, so right, so Freeling. And so you have the family then in the haunted house. So that one house is the one that got haunted. It's always bugged me, you know, why just that house? What's special about it compared to all the others? Because all that other stuff they made up for the sequel didn't even have that in the first movie, which Toby Hooper directed, although there's always been stories that maybe Spielberg had a little more control over it, because it doesn't really look like any of Hooper's movies before or after that, but it's still magnificent. And reading in the blog and on the description, they talk about all of the wonderful scenes from the movie that are that blew your mind when you first saw it. Stuff, oh my God, I mean, like that big horrible head that comes out of the doorway, right there at Craig T. Nelson. Steve was the character, and scare him, and his wife Jo Beth Williams. Diane Freeling encounters a sort of thing that looks like a skinned poodle, sort of twisty, you know, legs on backwards, saying comes after her. That thing. It talks about the little stake. Remember the little stake that moved by itself, and geeky stuff came out, and then the guy went to the bathroom mirror and his whole freaking face came. Oh, that was a frightening scene. And of course the little clown doll that comes out from under the bed and gets the little boy. What was his name? The little boy. It should be here. I don't know what his name was. Robbie, little Robbie takes him under the bed, evil little clown, and all of those things are going to be in the house apparently, because they mentioned those scenes specifically, and John Murdy was tweeting away about the maze in Hollywood, and he verified that he's going to make it very effects laden, and so it's going to be full of all of these effects, and we know where the maze in Hollywood is because we've seen the facade. It's likely to be in a scare zone in Orlando. Rumor has it, soundstage, not scare zone. Rumor has it, soundstage 22, although you never know. But that's where we expect it to be, at least. Soundstage 22, probably, maybe, and they will probably put all these wonderful things in it, and it just amazes me, all kinds of effects and stuff to recreate all that kind of stuff that was in that movie. And I hope the tree, remember the tree, they've always had a lot of creepy trees at Universal, you know, evil takes root and all that, yeah? So that tree that comes to the window to get little Robbie, that would be a great thing too. So it should be spectacular. I'm really looking forward to this one. It sounds amazing. Ooh, they do it right. Please do it right and really capture the movie completely. And I have certain expectations, certain things I really want to see or hear. The soundtrack to Poltergeist, it's got that lovely little sort of lullaby motif. That music would be so wonderful, and you know, the soundtrack was so cool. Now everyone says the Simpsons did it first, and indeed the very first Treehouse of Horror had a sort of haunted house bit that made a direct Poltergeist reference when the whole thing, you know, folded itself up at the end. That would be an interesting scene. I don't know if they could do that in the house, maybe with a screen, but but the music was featured. The actual soundtrack music was done on Family Guy. You know, Simpsons did it first. Years later, Family Guy did a Poltergeist parody, but they actually had the soundtrack music from Poltergeist itself, which is so distinctive. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. And my hope is that what I would have done in the very last scene, as you exit the sound stage, it'll set it up to look like the motel, at the end, and there on the railing in the motel hallway is a telly, because they pushed the TV set out of the room. Yes, and so that should be there for you to see as you walk out. That's what I would have done, at least. That's a little joke for the end of the movie. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have high expectations, but also dreadful apprehension. Why, Jimmy? Why are you worried? Well, Poltergeist is reputed to be cursed. Ooh. Yes, there are a few films that are said to have a curse on them. The Exorcist, they've talked about that, but really I don't believe that one had any real curse, because after all, there were all kinds of actual Catholic priests there blessing everything and while they were filming it. But Rosemary's Baby was one of the films that's said to be cursed, and the whole location of the Coulter apartments was already said to be cursed, and people think that's why John Lennon got shot, and there's something spooky about that whole building. And Anton LaVey was supposed to claim to have been involved, and there's all kinds of weird, we know that the director's wife was murdered by the Manson family after he made the movie, and William Castle died after that. Curse of Rosemary. And Poltergeist has another curse hanging over it, spooky. All kinds of very bad things have happened to people involved in the movie. Most notably, the young actress who played Dana Freeling. Who? There was another kid. You ask some people if they've seen Poltergeist. Maybe they saw it years ago, even recently, and they might not be forgiven for thinking, oh yeah, there were two kids. The little girl Carol Ann, they're here, and little Robbie, and forget all about the fact they have a teenage sister named Dana, because she sort of disappears. I mean, and in the second movie, she's hardly there at all. And it's a different actress too, and she's not even in the third movie, and you forget all about it. It's sort of like if you ever watched Happy Days back in the 70s, it was Richie and Joni and Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham, and over on top of the garage is Fonzie A and all of that. But Richie had an older brother, and most people don't even remember that Richie had an older brother, because he went upstairs with a basketball in the first series and never came back down again. And if they never mentioned him again, he was like a big lip alligator moment. We never speak of it again. Blam. So there it goes. It's goodbye to Chuck, or whatever his name was, disappeared. So that's sort of like the older sister on Poltergeist. She did have a neat scene in the movie where she gets levitated on the wall with a t-shirt, with a football shirt, and she goes up on the wall, but we don't really see much of her. But she's the one, the actress who played her was Dominique Dunn. And she was horribly murdered after the movie by her psycho boyfriend. Bit of trivia, her brother Jack Griffin Dunn played Jack in American Werewolf in London. And her dad, Dominic Dunn, spent the rest of his life hunting down and attacking anyone who's ever been accused of any crime whatsoever, whether they're guilty or not, because he was troubled by what happened to his daughter. So that was the first terrible death, and there were other bad things that happened to people's families. I think Zoda Rubinstein had something bad happen to her family, and she eventually died. But the other really thing, of course, is Heather O'Rourke, the little girl who played Carol Ann. She made it into Poltergeist 2 and 3, but not too much after that, because she passed away at a very young age. She had some sort of disease. It might have been a liver disease, I don't remember. But she passed away quite young. Let me take a look. She lived to be 12, and she died of cardiac arrest and septic shock caused by misdiagnosed intestinal stenosis. Okay, whatever that is. So that's what happened to her. So because of her death, and she's the central figure, and she never grew to adulthood, people thought, oh, there's a curse on Poltergeist, and they look for stuff, that might make it a curse. So there's always that fear of something spooky, supernatural. And hello, Lenny. It's a cat. And so I worry because, there seemed to be some cursy things about Horror Nights this year. A lot of things they had wanted to do, they ended up not being able to do, including Halloween, the new one, and they had to do an old one instead, apparently. As Murdy said, why didn't you do this year's Halloween? He said, it's complicated. There was some sort of complicated reason that prevented them. But that apparently is what they'd originally planned. They wanted to do a Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors and It and a lot of other Conjuring, and Warner Brothers decided to take their toys and go home with them. So that's why things didn't turn out exactly like they originally thought. But what they're doing sounds wonderful, so I'm not terribly disappointed. And then all the leaks, especially involving Poltergeist. At least 3 times it got leaked before it was officially revealed. Is the curse of Poltergeist in effect? Ooh, I hope not. I hope nothing cursy happens. Ooh, scary. So that's Poltergeist. Poltergeist? No, that's a movie about Thanksgiving that was made by Troma Films. But I might as well go into the reveal that came yesterday, because yesterday the next haunted house and haunted maze was revealed for both Orlando, Hollywood, again the same property. And this time also no big surprise, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yes, and they're doing that one apparently because they couldn't do the new Blumhouse for whatever reason, so they're going to go sequentially. They did Halloween 1 and 2 before, skipping over 3. Why the skipping over 3? Because Michael Myers isn't in it, I guess, and they would confuse the silly guests who wouldn't understand all these men in the grey suits and the little kids' heads exploding with bugs and guts coming out and Stonehenge. And actually be pretty cool haunted house. I wish they would do Halloween 3, Season of the Witch someday. I love that movie. But they're going to Halloween 4, which is the 3rd movie to feature Michael Myers. And this will be Return of Michael Myers. Remember, the movie came out in 1988, and that was all about Michael's been in a psychiatric hospital. He escapes. He gets a new mask. It's a little different looking. It's still the same basic, but it's a little more. It's prettier, actually. The one that in the poster artwork here is the old one. I hope they used the mask from the movie. Haddonfield looks more like it's out in the country in this one. It was shot in a different part of the world than the one in shot in Pasadena, and actually looks more like Illinois. There's also some wonderful scenes in electrocution. There's a scene in a gas station, a petrol station. There's a and of course it all circulates around a little girl named Jamie, who turns out to be Laurie Strode's niece. And Laurie Strode supposedly died in a car crash, and her daughter grew up and has a little girl, and then the mum died, and so the little girl is the only living relative of Michael Myers, and that's who he's out to get. And there's maybe something going on in Jamie's little mind because she has psychic connections to her creepy uncle. Ooh, disturbing. And of course, Dr. Loomis, whose face is all messed up now, he comes around saying, evil! Pure evil! So all of that sounds like fun. And rumor puts it in the secondary Shrek Theatre in Orlando. I don't know if that will be the place, but that's what people have been saying. So it might be quite a bit of fun also. There'll be lots of room. That's where they did Saw last year and Krampus the year before. And it's a good part of the whole Halloween franchise. I hope that doesn't mean they're going to continue doing that every couple of years to Halloween 5 and the Man in Black. Ooh, the mysterious dude in black. And then Halloween 6 gets silly. And then if they go into H2O wouldn't be bad, but Resurrection, that would just be damn silly, especially with Buster Rhymes and all that. Then they could do the Rob Zombie versions and eventually do the Blumhouse Halloween, but that would be like, 20 years from now. So hopefully they won't take that long. I don't know if they'll do all of them ever, or maybe could do one best of house or something. A legacy of Michael Myers, and then although I always think of the other Michael Myers, Randy, groovy, yeah, that one, because it's Love Guru and Wayne's World and all of that. Anyway, we do have that coming, so I'm excited about that. So we have those two announcements, which means we have 8 haunted houses now revealed for Orlando, and 5 mazes for Hollywood, and there's 2 left in both parks. Now the 2 remaining for Hollywood are both IPs, and we know what they are because of the leak the other day. And the ones in Orlando, it's sort of rumored what they might be. And that we also have 4 IPs, 4 originals. So, I still think it's going to be 1 more original, 1 more IP, and I have an idea what they might be because some of that's been rumored, buzzing about. Something about, oh, I don't know, you know, something a little wicked, and maybe something that would be a little Blumhousey. That sort of gives it away. Oh, but what exactly, we'll have to wait and see. So, this will bring this particular video to a conclusion. Again, today is the 15th of August, which means Horror Nights is in less than a month. That's right, it's now 30 days to Horror Nights, 4 weeks and 2 days. It's less than a month to Horror Nights. Ooh, exciting. Ooh, joy, joy, happy, happy, fun, fun, goody, goody. And when I return next time, if there's an announcement again, I'll do another one of these sort of videos. But if there is a chance, I might proceed with part 14 in my History of Halloween Horror Nights 25. I hope I can get those all done in time. And starting on the scare zones. And of course I have to come up with cocktail videos for both Poltergeist and Halloween 4. And I'm not quite sure what those cocktails will be yet. I have to ponder, think about it. I've done Halloween themed cocktails for the other 2 Halloween movies, so I have to make this different and come up with an idea that would work for this. And I have to think of something for the Poltergeist movie, and I'm not sure exactly what I'll do for that one either. So I'll have to ponder, think, maybe look at the movies, consider and come up with ideas for that. But until then, this is Dr. Jimmy at your service, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and hope you have a wonderful time in less than a month when it comes time for Halloween Horror Nights 28. Oh, Scare Zone construction is starting in Central Park. The pumpkins are all full of trees now. Strike that, reverse it. Trees are all full of pumpkins again, and there's some like a tractor and like a hay rack, so it looks like it's going to have a sort of rural agricultural aspect to Twisted Tradition, where the pumpkin-y things will be coming after you in Central Park. One of the scare zones is showing some signs of construction. There's been pictures popping up on the internet already, and I'm sure in very short order we'll start seeing scare zone construction throughout the park. Oh, this is such a lovely time of year as we anticipate the coming haunts. So until next time, be good and beware.